I pride myself on productivity. It's something that I've been honing and optimizing ever since I was 18, back in 2009 when I was a freshman in college. The peak was just 2 years ago. I was in plastic surgery residency, working 70, 80 hours in the hospital. Then I would come home and build 2 businesses, one of which was Medical Insiders, one of which was Blue Link, both of which required a lot of time. I also published a couple papers in plastic surgery and was even considering picking up a 3rd business in AI and plastic surgery with some people at my program. Balance wasn't a word I knew. This is a video about why you should not do that. Now, as some of you may know, I made a video about my IBD a couple years ago. Working hard isn't always a good thing. For me, it was somewhat of a coping mechanism because I felt like damaged goods after I got sick, and then I wanted to prove to myself and prove to others that I could do just the same. I could do anything you guys could do. And if it isn't already painfully obvious to you, this is not a healthy or sustainable way to live. Self-compassion and self-love are necessary for you to achieve your greatest potential and joy and happiness and your goals, whether those are professional or personal. Don't worry, I'm not about to go into some rant about some woo-woo stuff. That would have made me roll my eyes a few years ago, but I am gonna say that I have been doing a lot of introspection, self-reflection, personal work, and it's been helpful. It's been very insightful for me, and I'd argue probably for most people. Health is super fragile, and in these unprecedented times, is becoming even more front and center in our minds. But if life is so short, why do we spend our time acting as if we're going to live forever? This is when the question arises, if you were gonna die in 6 months or in 1 year, how would you spend your time? It's designed as a way to get us to think about what we value most and how we should change the way we allocate our time and energy. But obviously you can't live as if you're going to die in 6 months. I mean, after all, what if you live for several years beyond 6 months, but now you've depleted all your savings on naked parties and drugs? What I found most helpful was actually doing the eulogy exercise from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it made me realize that I was prioritizing work way too highly. I do have professional goals that are very important to me, but I also have some personal goals that are also important. If you do the exercise, maybe you'll find something completely different. That's fine, there's no right or wrong here. It's all about you being more intentional with how you live. On Medical Insiders and on this channel, I focus a lot on study optimization, on efficiency, on productivity, not because they are the most important things, but rather because they allow you to focus on the most important things. So the issue isn't necessarily your productivity, is that you don't treat time with the respect that it deserves. Now, for a lot of you, that does mean improving the quality of your work and study time, and that's why I make a lot of videos about that. But that also means not wasting time with low quality relaxation. I mean, let's be real, how fulfilling is it really to spend an hour scrolling on Instagram? Now, life is all about balance. When it comes to complex and nuanced topics like religion and politics and things like that, I normally believe that the truth is somewhere in the middle in most cases, except for vaccines. Obviously, vaccines are good. But when it comes to living the richest and most vibrant life for yourself, I would argue that living at the extremes is actually the most effective way. Now, some people think I'm a cyborg or a robot and that I have every minute planned out of my day. That's not entirely true. I do practice some ruthless structure and discipline, but that's so that I can let go and be completely free during other times. It's yin and yang in a way. For example, I went to London and New York for 4 weeks last summer, and every morning I was pretty focused. I would knock out a workout, I would spend a few hours doing deep focused work, and that meant that in the afternoon and in the evening, I could be totally free and just wander and allow the magic of serendipity to just happen, all without guilt. When I was studying for step 1, yes, I had every 30 minutes for 6 weeks planned out in advance. But by making those sacrifices, it allowed for more opportunities in the future. By working hard now, I could relax more later. Right now in self-quarantine, I'm finding that being structured, and more specifically crushing the mornings, has been so important in warding off sluggishness and just feeling down and being kind of meh. Yes, my 60 to 90 minute morning routine is somewhat intense. Yes, working deeply and intensely from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. is not easy. But when you win the morning, the rest of the day becomes easier. By being brutal in the first half of the day, I open up space for balance and freedom in the second half. The flip is you start your day half-assed, lethargic, without any real purpose. So then next thing you know, it's 12 p.m., you still haven't gotten out of your pajamas, and you're like, okay, now I need to get some work done. So you try getting some work done, but your focus is waning, and next thing you know, the time has flown yet again, and the last 4 hours weren't spent actually doing meaningful work, but you found yourself down this deep rabbit hole of Instagram and YouTube videos, and now it's 5 p.m. and you haven't gotten anything done, and you feel ashamed and maybe guilty, and you're just not happy about it. And yes, I've totally been there, and I don't like it, so I just don't let it happen. The way I see it is that if you sacrifice a little bit in the now, in the present, then you can reap the rewards, reap the fruits of your labor very soon after, sometimes even the same day. But to achieve balance, we first need to be mindful of our own individual tendencies. So if you do spend too much time on YouTube and Instagram, you need to get that shit in check. And how are you gonna do that? Well, maybe it's you put your phone in another room, or maybe you just create a schedule, a structure for yourself just for the first 4 hours of the day. Don't even worry about the second half, just the beginning of the day, just crush that and then allow freedom for the rest. For me, upon reflecting and journaling, just introspection, it's become pretty clear that I do have some workaholic tendencies. And I don't mean workaholic and they're like, oh, let me pat myself on the back, it's like a good thing. I don't know why workaholism is like celebrated as a good thing. It's really not. It's not healthy or sustainable long term. So for me to achieve balance, I actually put in structures in place to get me closer to that ideal. So for example, if I'm traveling, even for work, I will only limit how many hours I can work each day, and then the rest of it is like unstructured play, freedom, exploration, fun times. So what I want to do is optimize both my productivity, my work, because that is important to me, but I also want to optimize my play and relaxation and time with people that I care about, because that is also important to me. So to get the best of both worlds, what I need to do is make some systemic changes, and maybe you do as well. My daily schedule every day is pretty hardcore from about 6 a.m. to about 3 or 4 p.m. But after that, things ease down a lot. In fact, I even did something that you're never supposed to do, and I installed a TV at the foot of my bed because it just makes it easier and more likely for me to watch TV and unwind. On most evenings these days, especially from like 7 to 9 p.m., I will actually have calls scheduled with family or friends. I'm actually structuring in my play so that I'm not always just working on the computer, because when you run a business, there's always something to do, something that needs your attention. Now, where you fall on the spectrum may be different than me, but the process is the same. Figure out what you're doing too much of and what you're not doing enough of. And then actually sit down and cultivate the systems, the strategies, the incentives that make your desirable behaviors easier to do, and then your undesirable behaviors more difficult. Now, recently, I've been experiencing waves of cabin fever from time to time, and I realized that cycling is not only good for my physical health, but also very good for my mental health. The issue is that disassembling my bike and fitting it into my tiny sports car every time I want to ride, it's not the easiest thing to do. There's too much friction there. So I'm spending more money than I would think reasonable otherwise to actually install a tow hitch on my car and then a bike rack on that tow hitch. It may not have made sense to do this in the past, but by reflecting and checking in, I realized my priorities had changed. And even though it may not have made sense in the past, it did now. So I adjusted my systems and my environment accordingly. What pains me the most is when people don't understand how fragile health is or how limited our time on this planet really is. If you are healthy right now, especially during these times, I mean, cherish it, because it can be taken away so quickly. I have this morning gratitude practice, and every day, I mean, these days I'm able to eat just about anything I want. I can exercise without pain. I live a very healthy, free life, and that is awesome. I want you to live a rich life, one where you look back and think, damn, that was a life well lived. That was time well spent. Time is the one thing you cannot buy more of, so do please treat it with respect. That means not wasting time on half-assed work or half-assed play. When you work your tail off and you maximize and you do things that people said was impossible. And when you unplug and go into play mode, you have the richest and most grand and crazy adventurous stories. Right now, we can't really do that with other people, but you can still do things on your own. So for me, that's cycling and becoming a better cook. And for you, maybe it's running a 6-minute mile or learning how to be better at investing. There's this very popular victim mentality these days about blaming politicians or the economy or boomers or I don't even know what else. Just remember this, you are ultimately in control. You are the author of your own life. So what story are you going to write?